On our right, your left, we have Fabrizio who received his self-realization in 2002. He has lived in Rome, New York, and the Geneva collectives, currently working at the UN. He's married in Sahaja, has 2 children in a Sahaja school, very wonderful. And Fabrizio also wanted me to add that he is, quote unquote,
true story,
the best Sahaja Yoga football player that has ever existed. He wants to go to your friend Tobias from the UK, that he comes in as close second. Nick Tobias?
Tobias Hackett, who is from the UK. You know Tobias? He's the second best. That's not bad, I would say, no?
And then we also have Anand Varma, who is a filmmaker born and raised in India. Could you have some silence, please? And he is married to a yogini, and albeit they chose each other, they were blessed and overseen by Shri Mataji. He has 2 kids also in Sahaja school. He has seen the entire evolution of Sahaja Yoga as a young boy and was part of the first Puja done on the terrace in a house in Delhi in 1978. And Anand wanted me to add that his favorite movie is The Big Lebowski by the Coen. And I hope this short vignette provides a small idea of our 2 guests' character. And I will give... Do you want the microphone or just talk?
Yeah, I think it'll be easier with the mic.
The microphone, okay. And I will pass on the first topic to Fabrizio, who wants to talk about attention and Chitta Nirodha. There you go.
Hello. So first of all, thank you everyone for I think I speak also on behalf of Anand here, for the incredibly amazing welcome we got. We just arrived, we got seated immediately, food, coffee, this and that, we skipped the line. Not very nice to do. But it's really a bit overwhelming actually to see how well you're prepared and how everything is going so smooth. We're starting 8:20. For Sahaja timing is insanely early. It's supposed to be 8, but it's really early. But also just the love, it's just insane. Like you can see it in the air, going around. So it's very. We're not doing you a favor being here. We are actually being blessed by your presence and how much love you just showered upon us. One very interesting story. The very first Yuva Shakti seminar in Europe took place in 2002 in Switzerland, which is exactly 20 years ago. So I think that's a nice coincidence. And I remember the second night of that seminar, I was sitting somewhere there, and we had Uncle Gregoire talking to us, very nice topic. And then now I'm here, so very easily, in 15 years, a couple of you will be sitting on this chair, I hope, sharing with all the nice thing you learned. And that's really nice to see that cycle going on. So actually this topic of attention, I think is a really nice one. And till yesterday or 2 days ago, I actually hadn't thought about it. I wasn't prepared for it. But it's a nice story. I'll let you know how it came about. 2 days ago, I was meditating, and I asked Shri Mataji in my meditation. I'm like, Shri Mataji, this is gonna be embarrassing. No, you're amazing. Thank you. I had a meditation, and then I asked Shri Mataji, what do these Yuvas need? What should we talk about? What is important for them? And I picked one of those papers, the Lila Games, do you know that? Yeah, 108 suggestions. And they say, Chitta Nirodha, please give me a pure attention. But most importantly, take me away from what distracts me from my spiritual evolution. I'm not quoting the exact word, but that's what the message was about. Then this morning I woke up, I'm like, oh, Shri Mataji, that was interesting. And I was having breakfast with my 2 kids. They're 11 and 8. And I'm like, boys, I'm meeting about 100 teenagers, Yuvas or, a bit older also. What do you think I should talk to them about? My son sounds like, the importance of attention. And now not to get distracted. Literally paraphrasing the words. I'm like, oh, that's quite interesting. The second time it comes. Like, okay, just to be sure, let me just watch a video of Shri Mataji. Just gonna open YouTube and see what comes out of it. I open YouTube, the very first video, the importance of attention and memory. I was like, okay, I got this. It wasn't what I wanted to talk about. I'm not really prepared, but we'll fix it, Somehow I'll bring something together. So I watched the video of Shri Mataji. So obviously, I got all these signs, that tonight we're going to talk about forgiveness. I'm just kidding. It's going to be a So here we are. I watched the video of Shri Mataji and she said two amazing things. Two very interesting things. The first one is that your attention in the West is constantly challenged at all times. Now, if you take a moment to look at the history of humanity, your group of your age is the one who's suffering the greatest attack on the attention in the history of the Earth, planet Earth. Never, ever in the history of humanity, you had access to movies, musics, the videos, making photos at all time, at any point in time. And this is not an evil per se. The phone is fine. I enjoy my phone a lot. But it's creating a culture in which you're constantly taken away from the spirit, which is the only and single reason why you incarnated. If you're sitting here tonight, it means that if this is the average human, in terms of spirituality, you sit somewhere up here, right? You wouldn't be a yogi otherwise. You wouldn't be able to get yourself realization if you weren't up here. So to a certain extent, you don't need to be born again. You're already quite up. Before everybody gets up to you, it's going to take some time. But you came here because Shri Mataji just came to Earth. And this is a unique time of growth. And the tragedy of these times is that you have so much things to deviate you from what is really important in your life. So that's one small message that I got from this video I was looking at. Just to give you some examples. Once I was watching a movie with a Yuva, very interesting movie, something like, the Avengers, one of the Avengers, It's fairly easy to pay attention to that, right? You would agree, right? Something like Infinity War. Right? You just glued, bombs after bombs, it's so great, And this Yuva was sitting next to me, playing a video game on the phone and sending messages on Instagram. 3 things as the Avengers were going on, And I was like, how is this possible? Like, you can't even fix right now on this. How will you be able to sit down and meditate and do nothing? It's an impossibility. Now, does this mean Instagram is evil? No, absolutely not. Gabriel does an amazing job with updating all the stuff in the Sahaja schools. It can be an amazing vehicle for your growth as well. But what you need to be aware of, it's an extreme challenge for your attention. And one thing that Shri Mataji was saying in this video, I'll just take 5 more minutes and then we'll go to the next topic, is that the attention sits in every one of your chakras. And the attention is the only thing that makes your kundalini bigger. So first, especially if you come from outside of Sahaja, you have a few strands coming up. The strength of your kundalini is defined by the depth of your attention. So you should spend every single day of your life thinking, where is my attention? How do I improve it? First part of the speech of Shri Mataji. The second part, which was also really interesting, and this is, to me, is a bit more about being a Yuva, being a young person, right? I went to school in the US. Now, if you want to enjoy Maya, I would also suggest all of you go to school in the US. It's a lot of fun. I was on the football team, you see the movies, right? I was in the movies. I was in one of those movies. Very challenging, very difficult, but a lot of fun. And I always had this struggle with myself. All my friends were doing things that I couldn't do because I'm a yogi. Couldn't drink, couldn't smoke, couldn't go out with girls, couldn't do this, couldn't that. And if that was my only understanding of Sahaj, if that was my only experience of Sahaj, it kind of sucks. Wouldn't you agree? Like, you just can't do stuff, right? So what did Shri Mataji say in this speech, which I felt was absolutely genius? She said, you will have bad memories. You will have, you get upset because you experience something bad. And you'll have bad memories, and this will take your attention down, your kundalini down, your awareness down. How do you fight it? You cannot fight something in the past that already happened. You can't change it. So you need to create beautiful, spiritual, vibrational memories that take that place. So it's not about not doing things. It is also about not doing things. Very important. Especially because we're on camera. So, but it is about creating something. It is about creating something that is real in Sahaj. And I'll give you another practical example. When I came in Sahaj, I got myself a position at 13. But quite frankly, I just went to Romashram to play football every weekend till I was like 19 maybe. Then I got interested in Sahaj. But I had my whole life. I had, a girlfriend. I had, I'd done my experience. And, I could understand concepts in my mind about what the uncles were telling me, but I didn't imbibe them yet, right? So, first thing I was told in the Roma ashram of the early 2000s is, the girl sits over there, and you sit in the complete opposite corner, with no eye contact. That was the Roma ashram of 2000. I understood the concept, because I also, listened to Shri Mataji's speech. I understood you don't mess around with this, right? We're here, we're all sitting in a pure environment, there's no bad attention. I understood. But until that moment, it was I shouldn't do this, which only took me to this level. When did I really acknowledge things is when we had Raksha Bandhan for the first time. Because the sister came, she tied her Rakhi, I closed my eyes, she did the Aarti, and there was so much magic into it, that all of a sudden, I was like, oh, I'm not losing a potential girlfriend, I'm acquiring 50,000 million sisters. It's a win-win. And I could see the love and the sweetness and everything that existed in their relations. And that's the positive feedback that you need to get into Sahaja Yoga. You need to find out what can you positively do to enjoy Sahaj. What can you get that is special, that is unique to you, that your friends that drink can't do? What is it? And there is 3 zillion things that you can find in Sahaj like that. And that's what will keep you in Sahaj. Before passing now the ball a little bit to Anand, I tell you one last thing which to me was also quite interesting. When Gregoire gave the speech 20 years ago, he stood up in front of us. Yesterday you listened to Machindranath, right? Yeah. It's a song. You might have noticed they have a flair for liking to shock people a bit. Slightly. Huh? And Gregoire, Uncle Gregoire, literally just stood up. And this is in the early 2000s, where we believed that in 10 years we would have changed the world and, everything would have just become Sahaj and, we're like, it's done, we just need to wash the dishes after, but everything is pretty much done. He just stood up and it's like, in 10 years, 50% of you won't be here. We'll be gone. And literally our jaws, like we were in there, bubbly, yeah, we're so cool with Yuvas. It's like 50% of you will be gone. Guess what? He was right. Today, 50% of my friends are gone. What was the difference between the ones that stayed and the ones that left? 2 things. One, we're having a good awareness of what you shouldn't do. For these, I must say, the Italian Yuvas, or the uncles, they're pretty good. They close eyes on small things, you can, bad word here and there, it's all right, let you on, But then there's 4 or 5 things that if you do it, is immediate papach. So be very aware what you don't mess around with. And accept and enjoy your uncles and aunties telling you off when you're off. Because that saves you. That's what guarantees that in 20 years when there is the next seminar, you'll be around here to enjoy and talk to people. But the second thing and most important thing, actively pursue Sahaja Yoga. Sahaja Yoga is not something that comes to you, it's something that you need to go forward to. I've met a lot of viewers that say, oh, I tried Sahaj, but it's not for me, and it didn't really work. What did you do so special that you tried? What did you actively do? And they couldn't come up with any considerable effort of what they were actually doing, right? Going to the seminar once a year is not Sahaja Yoga. It's nice, it's very nice and it's good and it's really nice that you're here, but that's not Sahaj. There are, I would say, you can't really make a list, because in Sahaja, as soon as you make a book, you're already going off rail and it's already false knowledge in the moment you write it down. But at least when I came in Sahaja, what I can tell you, there were certain things that to me were very clear and they helped me a lot. So one, of course, is meditate every day. And if you skip one night, you're not going to die. We all know that, right? You can skip a food. But meditation every day is important. Also, what kind of meditation you do is important. For example, this is something I discovered in the past 3 years. I started reading speeches. How many of you have ever read a speech of Shri Mataji? Raise hands. Hey, pretty good. Oh, wow, very good. At least half. Very good. You will notice that when you read a speech, you just understand things in a different way. It's not better than watching. Watching gives you something else at vibrational level. But reading, you just imbibe it in a different way. It's extremely important. Other thing, once a week, I do paper burn. Or shubit. Now you're like, oh, that's fanatic. No, it's not fanatic, because if I don't feel like doing it, I won't do it. But I tell you, in any normal week, I meet Anand, is like, oh yeah, my son has fever, this and that. I meet Gabriel, oh, I'm applying for this job. Like, you constantly interact with yogis that need some sorts of help. And especially when there is problem, as a yogi, vibrationally you absorb things. If somebody tells you, my son needs an operation, whatever, that, because you're a yogi, because you absorb, because your vibration, that comes inside you. So you need a channel to let it out. And you will see, if you should beat or paper burn or give bundle, whatever you like to find your own technique, it evacuates those vibrations from within yourself. But also makes your attention stronger and so on and so forth. So I don't want to go through all the things I do, because obviously it'll be boring for you. If you want, we can chat later, we can stay longer and so on and so forth. But my bottom line is, think of it this way, and this is the last thing I'm going to say. Let's say I want to be a football player, right? You can either be Messi, or you can beat Tobias, who's second best, right? I want to beat Tobias. So, the point is, if you want to be joking, actually, Tobias is almost as good as me, guys. I'm just... if you want to be Messi, you don't just show up at the football field every 3 weeks. You have a plan. You have a clear plan. I'm going to practice 4 times a week. I'm going to go to all the international events. I'm going to do such and such. Now, the plan will be extremely different for all of you, because I don't enjoy, for example, meditating with music. Probably most of you, that's the thing that you like the most. We all have a different flavor to ourselves, and it should be that way. But my point is, treat the meditation as the meaning of your life, which actually is the meaning of why you came on this earth. And sit down, meditate and think, what can I do? And also talk to other yogis. Anand, what do you do? What do you meditate? What really gets you going? What gets you going? And you will see, your life just changes. And that's one of the things that will keep you here the next 20 years. There's a few more, but I think I've already spoke quite a lot. So I would like to pass it on to my very good and dear friend Anand for whatever, if you want to add to this or any new topic.
Okay. Good evening. How's everyone doing? So, thank you, Gabriel, for that introduction. So I think what would be interesting for you from my experiences is that, maybe he didn't tell you, but Shri Mataji is the mother of my mother. She's my grandmother. And so I grew up with her as a grandchild. And it gets interesting for your perspective, because I was an atheist. I didn't believe in God, and I absolutely detested Indian Hindu culture. So I was arguing with Shri Mataji all the time. So I came with, how would I say, a mindset which I was very stubborn. I still am. But I came into a head-on collision with truth. This is what happened to me when I got realization. But, I have asked Shri Mataji as a young boy at the age of 14, I said, I don't believe in God, and I I don't see any proof of God anywhere. So, bye-bye. So, and then, went on to, when they were puja, I said, these people what are they doing? This is all humbug, So, and then, some yogis would come and tell me, Sri Ganesha, do this, do that. I said, where is Sri Ganesha? I don't see any Sri Ganesha. Would you prove to me that Sri Ganesha exists? I'm sorry, I don't believe you. So we'll get to that part next. First, let's have a little story. So this is a marriage story. Long ago there was, marriage applications used to come through a fax machine. There was a time when it used to come through a fax machine. Do you know what a fax machine is? So, you know what a fax machine is? Yeah. So there was this, I was sitting with, So I was sitting with Uncle Yogi Mahajan many years ago at the castle in Kabela. We were having some tea, and this last fax came, from Russia for a marriage application. So it was taken. The picture was kind of blurred, and it was taken and it was processed, matched. As soon as the names were announced, this English guy came into the kitchen in the castle. He was sweating, And he's like, Uncle Yogi, can I talk to you, please? I said, what happened? Are you okay? We got him water, we got him some tea, and, are you okay? No, I need to talk to you now. He just said, what happened? See, the person I've been, he was a boy, he was a guy, he said, the person I've been matched to is a man. So what happened was that there was this fax, with the image blurred, and there was a long Russian name. And he couldn't figure out what, was a man, so he got matched to another. So, then he said, well, Shri Mataji really wants, I'll do it, but can I get out of it?
The true surrender test.
So Shri Mataji really teased Uncle Yogi after that. She said, this guy, he gets men married. So that's one. So, so going back to being an atheist and not believing in God, so... it's a very hard thing for me to explain, but, I had an experience when I was 23, 24, and that's why I started to meditate. But I will say that through my childhood, I saw people coming to Sahaja Yoga, people leaving. And personally, I have a sort of a belief in fate. Some people are destined to come, spend their time at Sahaj, leave, or stay on, or whatever. But a lot to do with where you are and what your consciousness is telling you at a certain time. Why was I an atheist? I don't know. Why was I born here? I don't know. And there are many things we'll never know. Don't try to figure out everything. You will not know it. Watch The Big Lebowski. Chill out. So, it's a lot to do with, why did I had no interest in Sahaja Yoga. I'll tell you that. Face up. I had no interest in meditation. What do I have an interest in? I have an interest, a very, 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 very powerful interest in knowing the truth. That is why I meditate. That is why I got my realization, because I wanted to know the truth about my spirit. That is why I get up in the morning, I meditate. In the evening, I meditate. I send my children to Sahaja school, because when you meditate, you find absolute freedom. This is, let's some of you participate. When you say you're looking for truth, what does that mean? What does that experience mean? What does it mean for you? Anybody here would like to share their understanding of what is truth?
When you said you're not interested in Sahaja Yoga, it's the same. It's finding the truth.
Exactly.
Truth is about knowing yourself, who we are, why we are here, what's the meaning of your life.
Exactly. That's why I went and did a namaskar to my own grandmother one day, and raised my kundalini and said, hello. It was very weird, because I was actually, the day I got my realization, I was eating breakfast with her, and she was talking about saris, and I was like, who is this person? What is this? And I could feel my skin changing. I had a very intense experience where lots of things in my life just changed dramatically within 24 hours. It was so powerful and intense that there was no way that I could ignore it. So that's why I started. And it was really weird, because she used to be there as a grandmother in front of me, and It used to start getting really, really weird at times, but you know, you went through it. You understand, and you know, your life changes, and you see the power. And this is where I think what I saw of Shri Mataji as a young boy was compassion. As she says, love is the leader. Love is what drives everything. And when you get this enlightenment, your love turns into a power. It's an actual force. It's a scientific force that works to organize, to heal you, to get things done for you. And as Fabrizio was just saying that, you know, do these things so that you stay inside. Why are you staying inside? What's so interesting is because you can benefit from it. You construct, you don't destroy, you construct. When I was in college, I went out and partied, I did things. But, you know, when I look today and I look at the Yuva Shakti, I look at these faces, you go to Kavela, or when I go to pick up my kids at Sahat school, you see in the eyes of these dormantes, these children, the shine, the construction of the biological bodies that they are. And when you go out and you see these people who are wasted, you see the destruction on the face. Sahaja Yoga, vibrations construct you biologically. This is not a yoga. This is a very, very, very deep science, a very precise science. As Shri Mataji says, it can look after even one strand of hair. And this is what impressed me, and that's why I do what I do, because I saw the results, I saw the proof, and I saw what was happening to me. And then, you know, of course, there was the other side of it where when you put your attention on things together, and when you look at other people who are wasting their lives doing nonsense, you say, okay, this is not what I want to do. But again, let me just put this in perspective. Life goes on. You know, there are what, maybe 400,000 yogis, 500,000 yogis in the world. The rest of the world is not yogis, and that world is going to carry on. People are going to be born, they're going to die, they're going to be diseased, there's going to be famine, there's going to be whatever, disasters. And that larger evolutionary trend, that's the God force, that's the Param Chaitanya. But you have a tremendous opportunity here to have the tangible experience of truth. And this incarnation brought that to you. So treat it like that. Sometimes when I look at this picture and I bow down and I feel really weird because she's my grandma. But you know what I just put it aside and I say, it's going to construct me. It's actually going to make me feel much better. So I do it. So look at it that way. And many yogis that I speak to, and I say, look, why are you doing this? You can proudly say, I'm doing this for a selfish reason. Do it for a selfish reason. Do it for yourself. To protect yourself, to protect other people you know. I will tell you a story. When I was engaged to my wife, we were in the Trient Hotel in Mumbai in 2000, when was it? 2006. No, 2008, sorry. And my father-in-law got a call from Paris to say that he needed to come back to Paris for a meeting. And me and my wife used to sit around in the Trident Hotel there and have coffee, and we used to chat and stuff with my mother-in-law, and we were spending time in that hotel, and the Oberoi Hotel, which is also across. And my father-in-law gets a call, and he has to leave and actually go to Paris for this meeting because his boss has insisted, and the boss would never do that. So they were all, we were all supposed to leave the rooms because this was his, business trip. And Shri Mataji suddenly calls and says, we're all going to Pratishthan, come there. So we all moved to Pratishthan, and this was the 23rd of November. And what happened on the 26th of November was the famous Mumbai attacks. Right there where we were. So something triggered that protection. Because these people who came in had actually planned another attack that was foiled. They tried to infiltrate before, while we were there. And like this, there are numerous examples. Having said that, there are yogis that die in accidents. There are yogis that get fatal diseases. There are yogis that get sick. It's part of our existence. And Shri Mataji says, if the tiger has to eat you, it'll eat you. It's okay. You'll be born again. So there's that element of fate, of life, which you cannot sidestep. But you have this great opportunity, don't give it up. So let's go to another story, which is the story of a head massage that I can tell you. So this is, there's this lady who came to see Shri Mataji. This was the days when I used to be sort of, around her and helping, and she used to ask me to massage her head. And this lady came to see her, and many people. This was in New Delhi in the ashram there. So this lady came and Shivaji said, Beto, Anand, go get my Silvi-Creen. She used to use this hair tonic called Silvi-Creen. And so this lady starts, tell her problems. And by the way, all these people who would come to see Shri Mataji for their problems, 0%, I did a study, 0% came to Sahaja Yoga. No one ever showed any interest. They would just come because they thought she was special and she could solve their problems. So Shri Mataji started to massage this lady's head, and this lady started to get really, really nervous. And we were all wondering what's going on, And, the more Silvi-Creen was poured, Shri Mataji was personally massaging her head. And then there were these movements that started to happen on her head. And suddenly we realized she's wearing a wig. So that was stop the massage. Everything was stopped. Story number 2, then we come to story number 3. Did you guys like funny stories? Or? So this is a story with Uncle Gregoire. So Uncle Gregoire came and he, started Sahaja Yoga, and one of the first pujas, he was feeling very embarrassed, so he said, I need to put on a kurta pajama. So Shri Mataji said, go inside, find my husband's kurta pajama, something, So he went inside, and then he came back out, and Shri Mataji, he found something he wore, and he came back out, and he said, Shri Mataji looked at him and said, Gregoire, what are you doing in my petticoat? There's one more story. Then what I would like you to do is ask questions.
We have the anonymous questions. We can maybe ask a few of those.
Okay. Well, I have one more joke.
Go for it.
There's a Russian, a German, and I'm just kidding.
No, that's so. So this was, this was really hilarious. So there was the ambassador from Mexico came to visit Shri Mataji, so there was this whole protocol, and he was invited to the lower floor in the Delhi temple, in the Delhi ashram. He was a super serious guy, came in his flagged car, he was the ambassador, and he had this slicked black hair, and he had all these spiritual books, and we received him on the lower floor, Shri Mataji was on the top floor. And he was very serious, and he said, really, I want to learn about spirituality, and and he had all these list of questions he wanted to ask. So, Shri Mataji in those days was watching this Marathi play, on the top floor, and there's this old TVs that she used to put on very high volume, so it's like a screeching sound coming. And she was watching this Marathi play, and finally we went up, and then he kind of came up the stairs, and he was His Excellency, he was an ambassador. So I said, and he kind of did namaskar. He says, hey, come here, sit down. Your head is very hot. He says, go get me Silvi-Creen. So I got the Silvi-Creen. So again, we poured the Silvi-Creen on his hair. No hello, nothing, no how are you, nothing, no questions. He had all his books here. And we were a bit, like, what's going to happen next? So and she started massaging, and she was watching this Marathi play, And we were, I was like, okay. So then started this poor man. He also didn't understand what was going on, because he thought he was coming for some very serious lecture about spirituality, some very interesting questions back and forth, which wasn't happening. And he kept on massaging, and then suddenly Shri Mataji fell asleep. So there was, I swear, my stomach almost split, because this poor guy, he had long, his hair was. And he had Silvi-Creen, coming down the hair like that. And he was just wondering, what is this? So we kind of gave him a towel, and then we said, yeah, I'm sorry, but the meeting is over. That was, I almost died laughing.
We can read a couple of anonymous questions, and either or feels fit, just take the mic. I think the first one, some are very straightforward questions, and I'll start with the straightforward ones, is how do I make sure I get into thoughtless awareness every day? How do I know when I'm actually in thoughtless awareness?
Take the mic.
It's a really great question. We struggle with that every day. I struggle with it every day. I used to be kicking myself saying, and 1 minute into meditation, I had, my brain in one of the scenes in The Big Lebowski. It is a challenge. It is a challenge. But I will tell you this, and this is a really good question, because, I used to, in my time with Shri Mataji, I used to ask her all the time as I take information, what is the way to grow? How do I move to the next level for my own selfish benefit? And the way to do it is to expand that thoughtless moment. It is absolutely critical that you understand that. Because that thoughtless moment is what makes the Paranchaitanya enter into your sastra. And the more you try to be in that thoughtless moment, the more the Paranchaitanya will show its evidence that it's connected with you. And this is what makes you deeper. This is what will bring more experiences to you. Without experiences, you will not stay in Sahaj. Why will you stay if you don't have positive experiences, if you don't have miracles, if you don't see good things happening to you? It's boring, you'll leave. If you want to really test out and really see the fruit, don't force yourself, do not force yourself. Don't say that I'm a military person and I need to go to thoughtless. Let thoughts come in. The moment you sit in Shamaji's picture and you put your hands out, she knows what you're doing. You're trying. If you try, and even if you're not able to get there, the fact that you try, it works. What I've done is, I've worked with trying to do it for 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. It's something that you have to keep pushing at. It's not going to come immediately. But let me tell you, when you make an effort and you try and sit, even though you're not being thoughtless, if you're making an effort, remember the Paranchaitanya, these powers are much more intelligent than you are. They know what you're doing. They know you're making an effort. God knows what you're trying to do. So it will come and, it will say, look, I'll give you the experience that you need. The other way to turbocharge thoughtlessness is what you're doing here. Be together with other yogis. Spend time together. This is great. Go and do programs. You will start to get thoughtless if you go and do programs. In the early days in England, people used to enter Sahaj, they start Sahaj, immediately within 2 weeks they'd start getting realization. So this is what you should do. Get in groups of 4, 5, 3, or alone. Go and give realization. Do programs. The more you're actively involved, the more you'll feel vibrations, the more you'll be able to go into that thoughtless state. But remember that people who sit at home, they don't want to go to the collective, they don't want to go and do programs, they want to meditate in the morning and evening, and that's it, that's me, I don't want to be collective. That's your life, but it's not going to make you grow. It's not going to help you. I went out in China with a Chinese store, and I'm sorry, I pulled my ears. I'm not a guy that likes to rough out, in these bus rides and all that. I like comfortable hotels and things. But you see, the thing is, when I did that China tour, even though we were staying in simple places, the impact it had vibrationally on me, I can't tell you. It was absolutely insane, literally insane. Just a few weeks ago, Uncle Hanuman, who's from Switzerland, he did a program in Neo. I was feeling lazy. I didn't want to go. My wife was telling me, you find time for everything except Sahaj things. I felt guilty. I got up and I went. And the moment I sat down and I entered the program, it was mind-blowing. The level of vibrations that were generated. It was really insane. And I'll tell you this, that when I look back at everything I ever did, I was very active when I was in California. I was studying in California. I used to go out and do programs. My life used to be, a red carpet. Things used to just work out. Everything used to just work because I was always involved. I was going to the ashram. I was going in, getting myself involved in programs. I was trying to always bring people from my school, from my neighborhood to programs. None of them ever became yogis. But the point is, you don't do programs to get a count on how many yogis you're going to create or how many people are going to stay inside. You do that program for yourself. When you do that program, you deepen your kundalini, you deepen yourself, and you start to have those experiences.
Yeah, just actually 2 things, very practical, very to the point. One is what also Anand said, I think is good to re-highlight it. especially people like us that are invited to speak events, we always come with these out-of-the-world stories, right? Which is nice to hear too. But that's not our daily life, right? I'm sure yesterday you heard Malik, he needs a Netflix series, right? Just for what happens in his life between Tuesday and Thursday, right? And it's true. All that he told you, it's true. But there is a lot more to his life of daily struggle. And what Anand is saying is extremely true, and you have to keep this in your mind. My son is 11. He's such a sweetheart. He's too true to himself. He's too old for his age right now. I remember once he was sitting down, and in his mind, I just sit down and I go, Thoughtless, I talk with Shri Mataji, I get all my dreams with Shri Mataji, and I'm perfect in his mind, the way he sees me. And so he sits down and is like, why doesn't it work with me? Why my papa is so cool and I'm struggling, I remember once he was like, he always feels a couple of chakras that they come every night. Which is amazing because he feels consistently. It's quite impressive at that age. And one day he turned, I was working on him, he wasn't moving. And he's like, Papa, I'm just thinking, this life, maybe I'm just not meant to feel cool. And I was like, you should never feel that in your life. I'm like, what you're feeling, I'm experiencing every day. It's not like the uncles, the aunties, whoever you meet in Sahaj. It tells you that every day they're in Sasrara, they're lying to you. It's a fact. Or they're a deity. You have to ask one of the two questions. So what is really here to remind yourself that whatever struggle you're going through, you think of the person, the yogi that you admire the most, and you need to know that they're going through the same thing. Maybe the difference is that they're trying a bit harder, and that's why you're inspired by them. Because they see the challenge and they tackle it. So that's the first point, really important to take away home. The second point, back to also what Anand said, I really love this one of give his effortization, which goes a bit to the Nirodha point, which is at very practical level. I like to just give you a little list. Sahaj, what is the problem with education, like school in general? Is that in the moment a school is like a zoo, right? You have a monkey, a tiger, a rat, and so on and so forth. In the moment you write a book on how to climb, the monkey is going to be amazing in school. The tiger is not going to do well. Because maybe tiger's going to be a bad example. The rhino is not going to do well, right? So the same is with Sahaj. If we sit down tonight and we say, to be in Thoughtless awareness, you have to do A, B, C, D, E, it won't work. Because, you're a tiger, you're a unicorn, and so on and so forth. But what it is, the list of tools does exist. And if you don't go out experiencing climbing, swimming, da-da-da-da-da, you will never find what really works for you. And as Anand said, if you don't see improvements in Sahaj, it's okay to not do it. Like, it's something that you need to do because it works. You shouldn't do it because your parents want. You shouldn't be doing it because we told you so. You shouldn't be doing it because of guilt. You do it because it feels amazing. Or, sometimes it's tough, but you progress centimeters per day, right? So again, going back to what he said, I think going to a public program weekly, it's not a good thing. It's the 101. Like, if you're not doing that, you are below normal. When I came to Sahaja, actually, I was from Rome again. I was a wimp because I was going once a week. Everybody made fun of me. The average was three times a week, public program. I was like one of the mild guys, one of the little wimps, once a week. But I never missed. Unless I was sick, I was there. I will make time all the time. Are you the sister of Maha? No. Yes. Ah! Nice to meet you. Going to a program, you need to understand, if you're not doing that, it's like you're not brushing your teeth. Now, some of you may be living somewhere in the Arctic, and there's nobody else to help you. We understand you, we're compassionate, maybe you can't do program, it's okay. But everybody else, if you're in your city, there is a program, you need to be there. If you're afraid of speaking, just go there and set up the chairs. That's very important. Setting up chairs is critical. Anything you can do to help the program, it helps you, not the seekers, it helps you the most. That's point one. Point two, as we said, experience with the meditation. Do music, do workshops, do paper pen, ask your friends. As he said, go to the ashram, do collective meditation. Learn everything you can, do as much as you can. Point two. Point three, the collective meetings. This is something that maybe later on will also go a bit more in depth. Yuva Shakti, this time that you're having right now is special. And there is no way that you can hang out with me on a weekend and feel the same joy that you're feeling this weekend. I can't give you that. It's not normal if I would, right? Your brotherhood, sisterhood, it's at a different level and it's important. But it doesn't exist outside the collective. It's really important that all of that needs to remain within the big bundle. So even within your country, city, whatever it is, going to the Saturday, Sunday meeting, the weekend meeting where everybody meets, it's sacred. When I say it's sacred, I'm not just emphasizing too much. It says in the Bible, like literally. One of the commandments is one of the day God rested, and that day needs to be dedicated to spirituality. I'm not saying that Jesus said that 2,000 years ago. So the dedicating a day to Sahaja Yoga, to your collective, is sacred. It's not, so again, this list we're making right now is not like the nice add-on in case you want to be amazing yogi. It's in case you want to get, top 100, let's say. Right? So these are just 3 things that are very important. I'll add a 4th. Most of you are too young for this, but again, this is something that when I came to Sahaja was told to me, and I was really happy because I kept it along. How many of you work? Raise your hand. Okay, actually a sizable, very good. When I came to Sahaj, another thing that was told me to me, which is very important, is never ever allow yourself to be a parasite to the collective. Not because the collective needs your help, but because it's against your evolution. So in any sorts of whatever environment you find yourself, you need to dedicate time and resources to the collective. There is a puja, go 40 minutes in advance. Your aunties are doing something, go help. Give time to Sahaja Yoga, as well as, if you work, money. Taboo word. We don't speak so much about that, but actually it's really important. Donating something to Sahaj on a regular basis, it's actually one of your basic duties. And it's really, it's a problem as we come along, because 20 years ago when I came to Sahaj, to me was sort of very clearly, not aggressively, you had to contribute, you need to participate, and so on and so forth. Okay, fine, great. You don't want to do it, don't do it. But if you don't do it, you're missing out on something that your Nabi can improve. Now, most of you are, maybe junior in your job, some of you are in school, and that. When I was in the US, I wasn't giving any money. At some point, somebody told me this, and I decided, okay, I eat Starbucks, every 2 days, that's $3, a month, that makes, $50, whatever. I just bought a coffee machine at home. I made the coffee at home. I never had Starbucks anymore. And I gave $40 a month to Saj, to the local thing. My $40 didn't do any possible change to the finance of the collective. It was influential. But to my personal growth, made all the difference. And I'm telling you this because I've been in New York, I was the coordinator of the area. And this is a trend, it's happening in every single country. The participation, not just of time, but also of money that the yogis are giving to Sahaj, the amount of people donating, the percentage is going down. It's not about money. It's not that we need to build a Kabbalah school. It's not that we need to do stuff with the money. It's about the awareness of the people of how do I contribute to my family. That's what it is about. You don't need to give a lot, you need to give something, and it's part of your spiritual journey. So, and it's important again to say it because as we go forward, we don't say that, and it's not the fault of the people who don't do it. If nobody ever told you, it's obvious. If you came in Sahaj 3 years ago, and they didn't tell you that you can't wear a miniskirt to puja, it's not your fault. It's the fault of the person who didn't tell you. You're new. Likewise, your kids, most of you don't even have jobs. You're not entered the area yet. But what you need to know is that this is part of your basic duty, not because you need to help the collective, but because this is how you grow. You use the 50,000 ranges of tools that we have in Sahaj to improve. Each one of them as best as you can. And that's how you reach thoughtless awareness, by trying all these different things.
We'll take one more anonymous question and then have about a quarter of a break, and then rejoin afterwards.
Could I ask a question actually?
Feel free, yes please.
I it stuck with me, that moment of revelation when you went from being atheistic and not believing to this moment when you were 23, 24, and you had all of those experiences. What was your encounter with truth? How did you experience it?
Well, it's a bit scary. You really want to know?
I
thought I was dead.
Know?
Yes! I know many people. Okay, you really want to know? Okay. So, this was when I was 23. Let me tell you, it's a bit, I was literally, I was in college in Washington, D.C., and I said, either I find the reason why I'm sitting here. I couldn't understand what is this Anand, what's he doing here? And I was desperate, absolutely desperate. And I was on my way back to Delhi, and in the plane, I remember it was a Lufthansa flight sitting at the back. I was sweating, I was perspiring, and I couldn't understand what was happening to me. And there was this knocking thing on the base of my spine. I couldn't understand. It was just knocking like this. I couldn't understand. I don't know. Frankly, I don't know. And then when I landed in Delhi, I remember the only thing I knew, involuntarily, that I had to go see my grandmother. And so to cut a long story short, Shri Mataji came. She was being, there's a part of Delhi airport, I'll never forget it, where she was brought to a VIP protocol, and I was standing at the back, and I watched her come down, and I started to feel really dizzy, strange. And then she was taken into a room. There was lots of people there, and that moment I remember I was standing at the door. There was a room. She was at the end. She used to wear these these little shoes with laces, and there was a little gap between me and her, and she looked and said, "Anand, come here. So I came, and she said, "Tie my shoelaces." So I bent down and tied, and she grabbed my neck. I still remember. And I don't know, I actually till today don't know what happened to me after that. I woke up in my bed in the other side of Delhi, and I was like, what happened? What am I doing here? And then I remember that morning I went to the Sahaja temple in my car. I just left. And I scaled the gate of the Sahaja temple in Delhi. And I normally can't even scale like half that gate. I had so much energy inside me. And I got to the other side, and I went up, the guard let me in, and I saw Shri Mataji sitting on the top floor in a white sari. And involuntarily, I was not even thinking about what I was doing. And this is what goes back to becoming the spirit. I just bowed to her, and I went and did a namaskar to her. And it was like an explosion inside my body. It was like something exploded. And I actually saw myself, I thought I was dead, on top, floating. And it starts to get a bit weird, but things started to happen where I saw the other dimension of who Shri Mataji is. And started to see her powers, started to see some really fantastic things, and that lasted for about 7 days. So basically, to give you one little hint of something that I saw is that I was sitting in the drawing room there in the Sahaja temple. And there's my grandmother, there's my grandfather, there's my mom, and there's my aunt. And she looks at me, and they were all talking, and my grandfather, I don't know if you know, he was into shipping, and he was a person who worked in shipping. And she looks at me and she says, "These people talk too much." And then suddenly, within the next 30, 45 seconds, they all fell asleep. And then she started chatting with me, and we chatted for 2 hours. And then these people started to wake up and speak exactly at the time where they had left the conversation. You see? They didn't know what had happened for the last 2 hours. Now, when I tell you this, it's fantastic. It's extraordinary. But again, you can or not believe me. But then I saw things which nobody would believe. She can look at anybody and say, what somebody. She could tell me what I was thinking. She could tell me where I was going, where I had been. She could take words out of my head. It's not a space which I would advise. It's the space of the goddess, and I had the luck of getting a taste of it. But it is special, and it's enormous. But things like, you think Shimaji is there, she's not there, she's somewhere else. So that got translated into an actual change where I believed I was reborn. Where I believed that inside my, even an uncle of mine I was speaking to had the same, it's like I was getting new skin, I was getting new eyes, I was getting new hair. My whole body was changing. Everything inside my body was biologically changing. And I saw a biological change in my entire being, propelled through vibrations. And that's why, because I was such a stubborn atheist, I think she had to put me through the special mix to get my brain working a little bit. And I had that experience. Now, I'll tell you, in those 7 days, if you asked me any question, I would have given you the answer. If you had asked me the population of a country, I would have told you. It's because there is a state, which is the pure spirit state, which is extremely powerful. We don't achieve it. I think I had a taste of it. But you can reach great heights. And Shivaji's talked about that time when you have a coincidence as a yogi, you say, wow, look at that worked out, isn't it? Try and reverse engineer. If I reverse engineer what happened to me and my wife in that hotel, think about it. It's me going to that hotel, reversed back to my marriage, to meeting my wife, to what? To those terrorists, reverse engineer how they became terrorists. It's a long, hard story. You can't figure it out. But there's a magical higher power that works in a very intense and precise way. And you have that luck to tap into that power now and make something of it. I don't know if that answers.
Are we happy with it?
Another joke?
Are there any more questions from the audience?
There's someone in the back.
Yeah, thank you very much for the things about thoughtless and how to get into it. There's something that I face constantly on a daily basis is the balance between thoughtlessness, trying to get into that state, and the effortlessness state. And a lot of times, Mother says, okay, it has to come effortlessly, and I feel sometimes, I'm too much trying to be in thoughtless, and then it becomes a struggle on a daily basis for me. And of course, you gave me a hint of the answer. It's just like the fact that we are trying itself puts us there in a position. But maybe if you could add something else to that, how do we balance this effortlessness?
There's a very nice speech that I've heard of Shimaji. I cannot remember which one, so I'm sorry I will not be able to give you the quote, but there's something that Shimaji said that I really enjoyed that I never heard in any other speech. She explained exactly the process that you're describing here. Effort and release of the effort, right? These are the two forces. And she said something amazing. She said, you cannot jump straight on the central channel. You cannot. You cannot go from nowhere onto the left channel. Now, how was the universe created? The Mahakali power existed without action. It just existed, right? Then you have the Big Bang, which is this insane right side. From something like this, you get everything that you have now. Cosmic power, lava, meteorites, all of that. It's pure right side. And now, as humans, we did our stages and we're going through the central channel. This is the macrocosmic way of how the universe was created, right? In the microcosm, your evolution works the same way. And I felt, maybe then we know Shimaji, sometimes there's speeches where maybe she's an opposite thing, but in this particular one, it was quite amazing. She said, as a yogi, your ascent starts on the left side, no matter what. You cannot start on the right. You cannot be active if you don't have a pure desire and pure heart. From the left side, you can't go on the central channel. You have to go to the right. You have to do exactly what you're saying, describing the hard work, the strife, the fear, this and that. Once you've done that, you develop an ego about, I'm such a good yogi, I paper, I am the leader of the Yuva, I'm so awesome, I had 32 seconds of thoughtlessness, Then you have an ego about it. Then is the time to surrender your ego, and then you get a thoughtless awareness. But if you haven't done anything, there's very little to surrender, right? So this process that you're describing of striving, it's not the end process. You don't want to get stuck there, but it's a critical moment of your life that you have to go through. So you have your desire, you have the existence, you have the grinding, the wanting it so badly, you keep hitting the ceiling, and then there is a point when you take everything that you did and you offer it to a lotus fit. And if you're lucky, you get 7 days of, Disneyland, journey, that amazing, In your own way, it does happen. But what you're describing is not a problem. It's metaphysics. It's actually the way it's supposed to work. Desire, action, effort, release, surrendering. You can't surrender if you haven't tried. At least I feel very strongly that. And as I said, maybe one of you at some point in your life will find a speech that disproves everything that I just said, which is also the truth. But in that speech, he said it quite clearly. If you want to
maybe just add a minute or two. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
The thing is also that you're supposed to enjoy yourself doing meditation. And if you make it a thing that I'm trying to be thoughtless, and why can't I be thoughtless, and don't do that. Enjoy yourself, smile. Shri Mataji once told me, she says, if I could get the yogis to just relax, I think I would have done 80% of my job. So take it easy on yourself, relax, have a cup of tea, take it easy. Don't have to, you don't have to stress, don't stress. And the thing is, at the end, commitment and spiritual seeking is your own destiny. Why I did what I did and how badly I wanted to know the truth was my thing. Some other people don't. But you if you want to do that in your life, if that is a goal that you have, you'll find your way out. And that there is a very strong element of destiny in all our lives. So you'll find your way out. I once asked Shri Mataji, said, Shri Mataji, what makes you unhappy? She said, I don't want to see my children unhappy. I don't want to see them sad. I want my children to be smiling and laughing, even if they're not yogis. She used to say, humanity has to be happy. He says the worst thing you can do to make Shri Mataji unhappy is be depressed. Don't be depressed. Even if you have to take an antidepressant, take it. Don't be depressed. Be happy. Dance. Have fun. This is the quality of the spirit that she always promoted, and that's what I found around her. So that's it.
We'll have a small break now and we'll resume afterwards with maybe a couple more questions, and possibly you can also think of a few on your own side and then see what happens.
So we can go back to the stories time. We were left with some realization stories, maybe out of the usual ones.
One actually nice thing also before we get to the realization is that the kids from Capella School, they are out only 3 weeks in the winter, and you don't see them much because they're mostly in the school. Sophia is in the school, by the way, with my kids. Every time I saw her, I'm like, there must be something special about her. She's so cool now, I know. She's born on a very special day. What's quite amazing is that I was so happy to come here. At the same time, it's evening and it's my birthday, and obviously my little kids are there, and I would have loved. We had lunch together, all together with the family. And deep inside, I was like, oh man, I would have liked to also celebrate with them. But the love, attention, sweetness that I received tonight from all of you, it's actually properly equal to the time I would have spent with my family. Like, at the same level. And I really mean it. You really have a special group here. Very, very nice. Now, we go on to... some realization story, because tomorrow you have a workshop. I'll just share some of the extreme ones, okay? That, again, we're looking at very fun, way to do it, very enjoyable. And it's a bit like in the movies, when in the movies they say, whatever is happening, don't try it home. It's kind of a bit like that, the stories I'm about to share. I'm telling you a bit the extreme version of giving self-realization. First, let me speak about some novel ones. So how many of you know Danilo from Australia? And when I say that, you should already start laughing and enjoying yourself, right? He's the ultimate, if you could take Italianness and you can shape it into a person, Danilo will emerge, somehow out of that experience. So Danilo moved to Australia, a country very different from Italy, you can imagine, different culture, different way. He didn't know anybody, but that didn't stop him from being Danilo. And Danilo is famous because he gives self-realization wherever you go. It doesn't matter who's on the other side, doesn't matter what kind of bus you're missing, a train, he's going to give self-realization to somebody. So you go to the States with him on a plane, and you find him in the cockpit behind the car, And you're like, Danilo, we want to get there, like alive, the guy can't close his eyes. It doesn't matter, Danilo gives self-realization. So I went to Australia, and it was around Navaratri Puja. And he felt he needed to do some offering to Shri Mataji. And it was urgent. No matter what, he needed to offer something. He's walking in Australia. Australia, I've never been, but they told me it looks a bit like the American residential, Beautiful little houses with a garden, a little white fence. Don't trespass, very important. Don't trespass the fence. It's there because you shouldn't trespass. And so on and so forth. Everything is so polite. Everybody's so nice. Danilo walks on, I was like, I need to get a flower for Shri Mataji, you need to offer something. And he sees a beautiful flower in a garden. In a garden that was not his, and private. And there was a fence. But that didn't matter because Danilo jumps the fence, runs his way to this beautiful, amazing flower that he's going now to offer to Shri Mataji. He picks it up, and the moment he picks it up, the lady who owns the house opens the door. Ta-da! We have the lady coming. And Adriano is telling the story. I don't know who knows Adriano here is. Adriano is the kind of guy that even if he wasn't there, he should be telling the story. That's how good he is at telling the story. So the way he says is that it's like this Indian lady opens the door. Her bindi is the size of a baseball ball, Bindi over here. Danilo is catching the flower, looks at her. She's thinking, what the hell are you doing in my garden? Stealing a flower. He looks at her, of all the possible answers that you can ever imagine to give, he just looks at her and is like, Navaratri Puja, Navaratri Puja, Navaratri Puja. She's shocked out of her system. She just doesn't know what's happening. This mystical experience. She approaches him. I don't know how he capitulated to that. He gives her self-realization, and she is a yogini today in the Australian collective. Established yogini. So now what you have to imagine is that sometimes in a collective, you have evenings like this one, the whole collective meets. And they're like, hey, how did you get self-realization? She's like, well, there was this chubby guy who came into my garden and stole a rose, and then told me it was for Navaratri Puja, and here I am. That's my spiritual journey. So, this is again, is one of the extreme stories. Try this, and 9 times out of 10 you get arrested, so don't do it. But what it is that the heart...
And the topic of the night was about attention. Your attention.
Yes, we have to try. It's a bit distracting with the chocolate, but we have to make an effort. But the point of the story is this, is that if your heart is pure, anything is possible. Even slightly inappropriate things and behaviors. Again, the story is a bit extreme. But this is a style that very much we had in Rome and I really enjoyed, which was, it's a fun way to give self-realization, which is not a way to diminish how important it is, because you're doing the work of the divine, you have to be proper, you have to be good. But I think, try to think actually in this way. Let's say that, what's your name, my friend?
Nick.
Nick and I are friends, okay? Let's say I'm not in Sahaj, and he isn't Sahaj. Let's say that because he's timid about sharing his story with me, because he thinks I might judge him or whatever, we spent 50 years together, and he never tells me about Sahaja Yoga. Which means next life, I'm going to reincarnate somewhere unrealized, and so on and so forth. because he felt shy that I might make fun of him or not understand him. Nick, if you were my friend and you don't do that, I'm gonna hang you on the ceiling. Right? Think about it this way. There is, on one hand, you've been slightly made fun of or not understood or judged or whatever, which is, it's something, I understand it. On the other hand, there is the evolution of that person for things that maybe they've been working for 35 lives in a row. And they're so close. And all they need is you to give the final setup for them to tap in the ball and goal. Argentina wins, World Cup, and we're all happy, right? So that's very, very important to remember that. Question?
Yeah, if I may. So, how many self-evaluations do you give in the US?
Boys!
How do you do that at your work?
Yeah, okay. Also another thing which is, I think is fair to say, is that you also need to understand your context. It's very important. At the UN, I'm very lucky because I actually have a picture of Shri Mataji on my desk. And if somebody say anything, they get fired. So, easy game on my side, you know. And then, you know, there's a lot of Indians colleague yoga. So, I can't tell, we did a lot of programs. We did musical programs in New York, especially. Here in France is a bit tough for me because I don't speak French. So, I'm a bit less active at the moment, but it's something that I really want to do. But it's extremely easy. There are in Switzerland, now it's a bit better, but like say 10 years ago, you could be fired or you could be very, so you know, Hamsa, the Hamsa is very important, right? But what I, at least again, my personal experience, and again, I'm sure if we ask all of you, we have 75 different methods to do it, and very important to use the different ones. But what to me works a lot is that technically you can connect anything to Sahaja Yoga, like virtually anything in the world. Somebody says square room, you can connect it to Sahaja Yoga. And this happens a lot of work. You know, you're proficient, you do something very good. Somebody's like, oh, that's amazing, you did the workshop, how did you do it? Well, I meditate, You start from there and you see how the person reacts and so on and so forth. But you need to do an active work to put the word out there and see how it gets picked up. I don't know, show of hands, how many of you are born in Sahaj? Raise hands. Yeah, I would say big majority of the group. It's not always the case. It's not always the case, but I have seen that not being born on Sahaj makes it slightly easier to feel confident, to also to connect to people, to understand why they drink, to understand why they are into certain things that you have actually experienced and overcome. As a born realized, it's a bit more difficult for you to connect to what people do or if you've never experienced it. And that does not mean that you need to experience it to begin with. But what it means is that you need to have self-confidence that you are in the truth. But also, if I may, what I've seen, again, it doesn't apply to everyone, but also understand, to me this is really critical, that something that might be difficult for you, and maybe it's going to be difficult for your entire life. We are not all Danilos or you know, Nicole is very good with that, Malik is very good. We all want to be doing that all the time, and it's okay. You don't need to work around and give 85,000 realization a day. If your capacity is 10 a week or 1 a month, as long as you put yourself there and you have self-confidence, that's the important thing. But what helps me is to actually zoom out of yourself. Don't think of what happened to me if I fail or if it makes fun. Like, it's not your subjective experience. You do it because you're meeting somebody who's in the sea of illusion. And you have a yacht. You're sitting on a yacht with your legs up and you drink. And you have a chance to do this. Now the person might slap your hand. It's completely fine. But here you are on the yacht giving the hand to the person to come aboard. So at least what it helps me, again, very practical advice, very logic oriented. It's don't think about your subjective experience of that or how difficult it is to speak. Think this person in front of me has an amazing chance to change their life forever. And I could be doing this. So that's one point. The second point, and then maybe I'll let anybody or Anand if you want to add something. Again, going back to the Italian way, how they were doing it, I learned a lot from them, which is really nice. It goes back to what Anand said. Sahaj is about to be enjoyed and practiced from the heart, right? So you meet somebody, have fun with them, be honest, be open. you don't need to say after 3 days, this is Shimaji, she's got to bow down, otherwise you boot. You know, it doesn't work that way, right? If you can connect to somebody through football, if you can connect to another girl through how she likes to dress a certain way and you like the same way, it starts with friendship, it starts with love, it starts with a connection. But don't be afraid of who you are. And the truth is, again, going back to our original speech, that the average human is like here, and in terms of spirituality, you are off the chart. You don't belong to the same chart. It's a fact, because otherwise you wouldn't be here. So you need to have all the confidence to speak to somebody or something, and enjoy it. And if it doesn't work, it's fine, because you know, for any good story of Danilo, there is 78 ones where it went really bad, you know, and it was quite embarrassing and awkward, but we all laughed about it. It was completely fine, and it makes for really good storytelling and nights and so on and so forth. So, top of that, I can't think of anything that top what Danilo did that, but in general, I would say just say that again, put yourself a bit out of your comfort zone. It's a really important thing. Don't feel it as a duty. It's not a job you have to do. It's not something heavy. You don't have a goal of 100 realizations in your life. You know, it doesn't work that way. But as we said before, it's an intentional work that you have to do. If you sit home or if you have the opportunity and don't take it, it's not going to come around. It's important. Timing is important. Urgency is important in Sahaja Yoga. It's very, very important. And if you don't take the chance, again, maybe not, if you can't do it yourself, you have limitation, that's completely fine. But think about the other person. What are the chances that they're going to meet another yogi? There's about 30,000 of us, 8 billion people. I'm fairly good at math, but right now I can't think of what its percentage is. But the chance to bump into a yogi is not super likely in the world of the universe. So Shri Mataji presents somebody at your door and they give you an opening, you should take it in the best way that you can. And again, maybe last thing, we don't all have to be funny. It's great, it works if you're fun, if you're charming, this and that. We don't. Some people are very knowledgeable, are very intelligent, and they present Sahaja in a more structured, well-mannered, polite way. Some people jokes a bit more. Some people connect it to sports. Some people do it in a different way. It doesn't matter. Just find what works for you, and that you do through practice. And I'm sure tomorrow, if you have a whole workshop on this, you will be able to observe a lot. That's maybe one last thing that I'm thinking right now is very important. Observe. I remember when I got my self-realization, I started leading programs would be after 7 months. Romashna was absolutely insane the way the militaristic training of yogis, but it worked well. But I remember my first 7 months, I went there every day and I observed. What is this guy saying? How do the people react to it? How does vibration with their work? How does this work? Oh, I like this. Let me note it down. Observe. And if you pay attention, you're going to learn so much. And there's already a myriad of yogis that are amazing at this. Spend some time with them, absorb, and then you'll be very good. And you won't even realize, how did I get here? You know, it's a fairly spontaneous process after a beginner effort. Anything you would like to add after this super long statement?
Do you want me to talk about the thing about people being kind of...
Yes. Yeah, sure. And if there's also a few questions after. Yeah.
So there were some people who in the break came and talked about how they haven't actually had an experience directly with Shri Mataji because as you may know, Shri Mataji said this, and it is the truth, that Sahaja Yoga is one aspect of Shri Mataji. The incarnation of Shri Mataji is much greater than Sahaja Yoga. But there may be people here who didn't have an experience to recognize Shri Mataji or believe all these things that you're being told about gods and goddesses. So let's see an honest raise of hands of people who are still questioning, and it's really healthy and really important that you question. Because Shri Mataji in our earlier programs used to say, I want you to be as skeptical as possible. Don't believe what I say. So let's see a raise of hands. Anybody here struggling with recognition or with this talk of gods, goddesses? Very good. Excellent. Brilliant. These are seekers. These are people who are seeking. They're looking for truth. And don't ever accept something because somebody tells you to accept it. Test it. And if it's not working, stop it. No one should force someone. How can you force someone to be something you don't want to do? So it's your wish, it's your life. And in the same, I'll share a story that I plan to share with you of. I'm not going to take his name. He was young at that time. He's a Sahaja Yogi from Rome, again from Rome, and he was 14 years old, and he came to a program of Shri Mataji. He got his experience, and for him, she was the goddess instantly. And he went home and he told his parents about this experience, and they said, no, you're not doing this. And they discouraged him from being a yogi, and he was 14. Think about that. And he went back, joined Sahaja Yoga, started to meditate, got into the collective, and when he went back home, they said, look, we'll fund your youth. We'll give you money to go to clubs and do what you want. We'll fund it. We'll give you money. You go party, but don't do this Sahaja Yoga business. And he fought through that, and he lives in the Rome ashram today. Imagine that. But that's him. That's not everybody. So remember that there are people who have strong experiences, and some people, are going to have experiences later, or they're in the process of questioning. You should not feel guilty, bad, or inferior. I was just talking to someone. I said, "Look, we evolved from, species A to B, whatever, and became human beings. Can I turn to the amoeba and say you're wrong? You're not wrong. It's part of what the evolutionary ladder is. God will have no job if there's no dark side. All the destruction and all the dark things we see today, if we don't have that, how are we going to see the other side of life? So that's it. I don't know if that helps.
Thank you. If there are no open questions, we'll just do one or two more anonymous questions and then wrap up the evening.
I have a question, but it's from before.
Yes.
You both have children in Sahaj schools, and this is a very loving environment for children to grow up in. But I've been talking to other Yuvas who have been in a Sahaj setting their entire life, and they found it quite a shock to be presented to the world out there, let's say. And my question is, do you have any advice or maybe some insight on how we could prepare children for reintegrating into a world that is flawed as it is?
I can start and switch. It's an amazing question, and probably one that it's a work in progress forever, for eternity. The beautiful thing about kids is that you have your first kid and you do most of the things wrong, but then by the age 5 you're like, okay, I got it now, I know. Then you get your second kids and you're like, I'm gonna master this because I have all this previous experience, and it doesn't apply because the second kid's completely different from the first one, and everything you did doesn't work with the second, right? So start from the point that every kid is a universe for itself. That's the beginning point. So again, we go in a point where it's very hard to say this. You could do A, B, C, and you have 90% chance to success, because humans, as you said, we all at different level. It doesn't work that way. I can talk about my personal experience, which I think is quite interesting, because my 2 children are of complete different maker, very different personality, opposite, I would say. And I'm already working on that, because one of them is 11, he's entered the teenage year, and I'm thinking, okay, how do we handle this when he goes to, now maybe he goes to baby school, but then after that, universities and that. And we're actually taking 2 very different approach with each child. One is very serious. He's an ancient sage bottled in an 11 years old body. And that creates a lot of friction, because it's like he's a sage and a kid at the same time, and you're like, what's going on with you? But it's very sweet. It's very sweet and inspiring to see. The other is just a bundle of energy, and it doesn't care about anything, and he's a butterfly going around the world, So very different thing. But especially with the oldest one, for example, we noticed he has an innate sense of Sahaja Yoga. Like, you don't need to explain things to him. He's like, this is the truth. And he's even a bit too hard on the truth, right? So what I think, and it's an untested theory because he's not a teenager yet, but what I would like for him is to imbibe a little bit of the poison at the time, be exposed to it, and understanding that while you know what the truth is, you're not big enough to understand the plan of God. So you know some generics, but in the moment you say, this is black, this is white, you're wrong, and I hate you because you don't understand and you drink, you're off the world. You cannot participate in the world if you have the out view. Even though what you're saying is true, drinking scientifically destroys your liver and your awareness. But you hating that person who does it does not help your growth. And so with my child, I actually have these sorts of talks. We sit down, and sometimes I can see he reacts to something that he sees that's strict. You know, some guy takes off his shirt. I was telling this example before. A guy is running, takes off his shirt. And he's like, doesn't he have a mother? Doesn't he know that you're not supposed to do that? And to him, it's like, this is a criminal, you know? Him, you know? Get him, you know? And I was trying to explain to him, like, it's true that we need to respect our Dharma. But I'm like, you know that because that's what you get taught inside schools. That's what we've been teaching you since you're 1 year old. If we hadn't, you wouldn't know this. And you take your shirt off and go around. So I said, while Dharma is important, compassion is on the other side of the scale. And as a born, realized person, you always want to teach compassion to your kids. And you always, because what you said is extremely important. If you go through the old Saj school system and then all of a sudden you go into the normal world, you might react, and if you don't have a balanced understanding of Sahaj, you react in two ways. Either you become fanatic and you hate everybody, or you crave so much the attention and approval of the others that you start drinking and you start doing everything that everyone expects of you. And it's very normal. Psychology, it's not just a spiritual thing, it's a psychological process. So what you want to do with your kids, to be always trying to bring them to the center. Our second child is like the fun dude. Like, he just wants to have fun. Like, I was about to say his name, I have to be careful. So, you meditate with him, what do you feel? Cool everywhere, it's amazing, you know. He's full of catches, everywhere, you know. But he's like, I'm in La La Land and I'm loving this. I'm just going to play tabla after. It's great, you know. This is life. He lives life like that, which is great, which means he does not need to learn compassion. Because whoever he's going to meet, he'll be, hey dude, give me out, you drink, it doesn't matter, I'm going to give you separation, you know. But he needs to know Dharma. So with him, we're very more strict. It's the same family, 2 different kids, absolutely different method. With him, we're on top of him. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? Sit up straight, da, da, da. We don't do to the other because he already put so much pressure on himself. So, again, it's not really a good definitive answer, but the point is, you really have to pay attention to where your child lands in the spectrum of that goes between to libertine to fanaticism, and you want to bring them somewhere in the middle. And the crazy thing is that at points in life, they actually may be in different, like, you know, so you have to change as you go around. Just to finish on a fun note, I'll tell you a very funny story. It's one of my favorites about the kids. So the old one was in school. So he went to Kanajari school and then he went to normal school in the US. And it was actually very sweet because the Kanajari kids were so innocent. He was not exposed to malice ever. Like, he didn't understand what it meant. But he has a good punch. So, so what happened is that every other day I was with the president in the school having a chat, because the kids would make fun of him. He'll take it 1, 2, 3 times, 4 times, you know, and I get a call. All right, what did he do this time? And what I realized is that he couldn't deal with negativity that he never experienced before. Because, for example, he went to school and somebody was making fun of his shoes. Imagine in a Sahaj school, you're talking about vibration, chastity, collectivity, sharing, and then you go, sounds like, oh, your shoe sucks. And he was like, you know, sounds like, your mama is fat. It's like, you don't know my mama. He literally said back, he's like, you never met my mama. How would you say that? You know, at the level of innocence. And so one day I said to him, I was like, okay, you know, you can't punch people. It's a rule, you know. I understand how you feel it. They deserve it, but you can't do it, right? Also, Papa works. I can't come to the school every day, you know. So I say, let's work on you talking back, right? I'm going to teach you how to react without hands, but just, you know, handle this. I'm like, so I want to make fun of you, and you have to pretend you don't care, you know? I'm like, and then, if I insist, you push me back, but verbally, not, you know? So I say some mean things on him, you know, and then you can see he's getting upset. I'm like, no, say something mean back to me. He's like, she couldn't come up with an idea. He was like, I don't like your sweater. Then comes close to me. I don't mean it, I'm just doing it because you're asking. They go on the whole thing, I'm like, okay, forget, this is not gonna happen. And so, you know, now he grows, and this is the continuous struggle to teach him how not to react too much too late, react a little bit. And it's crazy that I have to teach him how to react. But a little bit, let the fire out a little bit in a healthy manner that doesn't stay inside you. That's very typical to him. Last story, which is really funny, is at this age, he was like 5. He meets one of the kids, they're playing, and he loves him, and you know, this and that. And it's like, okay, you come, you know, it's like, you know, you're kind of a bad boy, so I want to teach you how to meditate, so I'll fix you, you know? Like that, direct, you know? And then, if you're very good, maybe you can come to Kanajori with me one day. Maybe, you know? Talking about confidence in human self-realization. So then he sits there and is like, I set this guy in front of me, and then I'm like, actually I don't know how to give self-realization. I never did this, you know? It's like 5. I was like, so, okay. Shri Ganesha mantra is the first thing you always do. It's like, so I just started saying the mantra of Shri Ganesha. So it's like, and until now I almost had tears of joy, and I'm like, my child is such an angel, it's so pure. I'm obviously doing a great job, you know, it's great. It's like, I give him self-realization, I start saying the mantra. And the guy, of course, hears Hindi for the first time. You know, some sort of an intonation that is weird. And he thinks it's a very weird experience. So the kid turned and was like, why are you talking like the minions? And then he's like, so he offended Shri Ganesha, so I grabbed him, flip him in the air, smack him on the ground. I'm like, what? I'm like, how did you go from self-realization to MMA in 7 seconds? You know, how did that happen? I was a bit upset, and then he looked at me, fixed in the eyes, because this is a realized story. It's like, he offended the deities. You don't offend the deities in my presence. And then I was like, you're right. You're right. What am I going to say back to you? And I'm like, next time, remember verbal skills. You can defend the deities verbally. It's very good what you did, but you know. So, in a nutshell, this is my very personal experience. I'm sure every parent will tell you a completely different universe. But what is the key to me is to know your child as you struggle to know yourself. And also maybe one very last thing, actually, it's very important. As a wife and husband, this is actually a very subtle point. You have different personality, especially if you marry in Sahaja, you will notice we get matched in a complementary way. So you have a very kind of different style. So guess what? In our family, I'm kind of the fun guy. Mama is the strict, dharmic, and she's absolutely the saving grace of our family because we'll be in ruin. It's just me. But what I noticed, which is super mega important, is that first of all, always help each other as parents with your children. She might actually say that never argue in front of them, never show, like I've seen many times, actually happened mostly with me, I did very wrong things. My wife never corrected me in front of the kids. Ever, ever, ever. In the moment you shoot this unity, these kids are so genius, they're just gonna ride through it. So you always show a unite front, but also in this kind of scenarios, it's very dangerous where you start playing roles. So for example, at some point my wife was always the strict one, and I was always the fun. Now, guess who was not happy about the situation? So we had a chat, and my wife was like, you know, we can't do this, because I put the rules and the kids come to you, and then you break them, and then I look like the bad one. And she was right. So I changed my parenting style to be more strict, because that was affecting also our relationship. So you have a triangle there, right? So what is also extremely important is be aware of what your wife does, and what your husband does, obviously. Support them, but never stuck yourself into a role. Because in the moment you have the strict and the fun, or you know, the talkative and the silent and this and that, you also get stuck into it. And I noticed myself, I would do that. Like, whenever my wife would do something, I'm like, man, she's so tough on that, you know? And whenever something happened, even before I would do something, she'd be like, yeah, don't let them go, you know, like obvious, you know. And that is extremely dangerous, because the death of Sahaj, it's lack of evolution, it's lack of change. In the moment you stuck yourself in something, that's the death of. And with kids, it's extremely important, because everything about the life is a cycle, ever changing and very fast paced changing. So this dimension is not just how you deal with the child, but how as parents you create a team environment, and also you become aware of the dynamics that you start creating around the child is extremely important, and it's very counterintuitive. It happens and you don't realize it. I think we were very lucky because our uncles and aunties kind of at some point I heard it somewhere and it really stuck into my mind. So it's the relationship of the three, it's the father, the mother, and the children, and how that all combines together is very important and complex. Anything you would like to add? No, you're good.
Yeah, question. Regarding this part which you actually mentioned at the very end about relationships between parents, this is for the younger people who are in Sahaj. I was wondering, how do we navigate through this?
The relationship of your parents, or?
No, in the sense when you want to have a relationship, many of us, I think, hear that Sahaj is the best way. Apply, and it'll be how it is. Everyone has a different but I'm wondering, when Shri Mataji says it's not compulsory to get married in Sahaj, but then how do you navigate that part?
Never do something you don't want to do.
Yeah, very true.
And I mean it with all my heart, because I have seen not one but countless stories of kids' lives being ruined. They've been sent to Sahaja schools. They come there and say, I'm not interested in Sahaja Yoga. My parents forced me to go to these Sahaja schools. This is absolutely wrong. I'm not a politician. I don't want to speak on behalf of these people, but don't do that. And you know what? You know what happens? People go and apply for marriages and they wreck somebody else's life, because on the other side there's somebody else who's going to say yes or something, and then they're going to go home and wonder what happened, So I just feel that if the day you're ready to do it if you want to do it.
Yeah.
But be prepared. You could get anybody from any part of the world. And never, I can swear on Shri Mataji's feet, in all my life as in Shri Mataji, she has never ever forced anyone to do anything. That's not true. That's simply not true. She has encouraged people. She has been angry with people. Shri Mataji once matched me to someone. I'm sorry, I just couldn't deal with that person. I said no. She shot several cannons at me. She got really angry with me. Very, very angry with me. But I just stood my ground and I said, I'm sorry, not with this person, sorry. So, and then it was okay after a little while. But there was also, so here's another funny story. So there was this Italian gentleman who Shri Mataji wanted to get married. So she had this album of ladies, I don't know where it came from. So this guy came in and he said, look, I want you to get married. And then she'd open one page of the album and show a picture, and he would be, sweating. And he would make an excuse, maybe next year Shri Mataji, or something like that. So, and people have, they've run away from the marriage bundle as well, they've escaped. So it is a tough and a thing that I don't want to comment on, because it's something very auspicious, something very deep, and I don't want to be frivolous about it.
Yeah.
But don't do something you don't want to do. No one wants you to be miserable. I can guarantee you that. Okay.
Should I actually do maybe the 5-10 minutes?
I think it's too much.
First, in everything that we say from this moment on, you have to also repeat this mantra that Ananda just said. You don't have to be forced to do anything you don't want to do. It's key. It's at the base at everything, which includes also giving self-realization. Do this, do that. You have to do it because you enjoy it, because it makes you grow. Nobody should whip you into do something. It's very important. Also, because when you do it that way, you fail. It's a fairly guarantee that if you enter something with a gun at your head, very likely you're going to score.
I've seen kids who've been psychologically destroyed.
Exactly.
You know, they've been psychologically destroyed. It's been serious, and they've come back. I didn't want to even hear it, but they were being, just being pushed into doing things that they didn't want to do, and they were crying and weeping, and it wasn't pretty.
Which also it applies to actually everything that is part of our Sahaj culture. For example, even Sahaj schools. There was a period of time where one of my kids was having a very tough time. Something happened, and I asked point blank several times, "Do you want to go back?" And if he said no, I would have taken him out. Not because the school was doing anything wrong, because my child at that moment was not prepared to go through what you need to be in that school. It was not, the school was doing everything perfect. He wasn't aligned with something, or maybe the person was doing, the other kid was, that something was there. I don't know what it was, but he looked at me and he's like, "I want to go back." That's why he's back. That's why he's still there. So this point of being sincere to yourself, to your partner, to your kids is extremely important. And again, as you say, there's some kids that went through the system and they weren't ready. The personality wasn't adapted, whatever it was. And it didn't turn out well. And that also created resentment inside. So again, this is, I think, is the key point that Anand said. At the same time, like if you want to have a panoramic of generic things that Shri Mataji said about the topic, I think you have a fairly established pattern, right? So generically, to get married in Sahaj, you can say is a good thing, right? Is it a must? Is it mandatory? No. I think we can fairly concretely assume that it's a good thing. If it wasn't, first of all, Shri Mataji wouldn't create the whole system, right? Now, why is it good? Not just because you evolve, but it's much bigger than you. Sahaj marriages are about creating an international global family that will change the world at some point. If you see the Indian kids that are born in the States and parent is Indian and the other parent is Argentinian or whatever it is, they are unique. You cannot have a kid like that if you don't have two parents from such a different culture. And they absorb the best on each side and they're complementary and so on and so forth. Now, are all the kids like this? No. Are some people that get married and they get divorced? Yes, of course. It's not a guarantee. But generically, if you wish, I say that, and maybe it's a bit pompous, but it's a bit the Harvard of getting married, right? If you wanna put it that way in terms of schooling, right? If you can go to Harvard, why would you not go, right? If you have the chance to go, take a ticket, go, try it. If you feel good about it. If you don't feel it, if you want to start working instead of going to school, start work. It's great. We don't all need to go to Harvard. That doesn't make you a bad yogi. That does not make you a second class. Point one. I think so generically is a good thing to do if you can prepare. I think the second step is choosing each other. It's a very hot topic, if you wish, difficult topic, isn't it? Again, while not all the cases are the same, there are generical trends, and there are speeches of Shri Mataji that she speaks very clearly about this. She said, if you need a partner, if you feel emotionally in need, if there are time, choose somebody from outside Sahaja Yoga, bring them in Sahaja Yoga, teach them Sahaja Yoga. It's amazing, and I've met so many people that they matched like that, and their husband and wife, they became way better Sahaja yogis than the original. And you're like, wow, your whole existence was just to bring her, like that. That was your purpose in life, And you see the beauty in it. And it's fantastic. It's great. And it works very well. And I don't want to be overly mental here, but, the ratio of men to women is 1 to 3 in Sahaj in general anyway. So the trend will have to be a bit like that. We have to get a bit more looser, and like statistically, it's we don't need to get depressed about it. But statistically, there is so many more women than men. It's just a fact. So not everybody can be matched. It's a number fact. So it's not only okay. It's natural that you will meet people from outside and feel comfortable with it, and amazing miracles can happen. The third stage, which ideally you want to avoid, because Shri Mataji spoke fairly strongly about it, is pick somebody from this group and get married now. It's very unadvisable, if you wish, for a number of reasons, a very strong number of reasons. Vibrationally, the attention of the group, the way the collective reacts, and you know, many times collectives react way too fanatically about that. I agree. Many people get really hurt and attacked because they chose each other as if they just killed an entire nation, you know? But it is something that Shimaji spoke strongly about it. But my point is, if you can avoid yourself to do this thing, avoid it. It is very healthy to avoid choosing another yogi, because Shimaji spoke very clearly. It's not something that pleases me. I will marry you, she said. If you ask me, I will marry you, but you're asking me something that makes me uncomfortable, right? Now, I also know a story, without saying the names, two persons chose each other, bashed by the collective, this and that. The woman writes a letter to Shimaji. Beautiful letter from the heart. Shimaji reads the letter. She calls the leader. She says, these two people, you put them among the newly matched couples that I made. Right? So they got married with all the matches, and they chose each other. Now, you know, this is again is one of these stories that are kind of out of the curve of normal. Right? So it does happen. You could be that in the 1 out of a million chances. Can I tell you that for sure is not you? No, I cannot. But what I can tell you is that for the 90% of the people, when they did that, it did create problems in the collective. It did create problems for them. If you ask me, do you want your kids, how do you want to get married? Personally, if they want, I would, if I can choose a genie with a lamp, I'll ask for Sahaja marriages and enjoy it, right? If you tell me you want a Sahaja marriage and not enjoy a normal match, but enjoy it, I'll say normal match with somebody from outside and enjoy it, right? And so on and so forth. So you need to have your hamsa awaken, but do know that the generics are fairly clear. The generic advice that Shimaji gave us is really clear. So that is one point about that. The second thing is, now if you want to know a little bit about such marriages, also I think it's, you know, in terms of how to prepare this and that, for the past 3 years actually I've been helping the marriage committee to do workshops for people that would like to do that. One thing that we noticed is really interesting is that, this is something that maybe you all can relate. It's 23rd December and you haven't bought half of your gifts for Christmas. So you rush to the shop that closes at 5 p.m. and you try to get as many gifts as you can. It's extremely stressing and unpleasant, and so on and so forth, right? If you could go a month before, you enjoy, you sit down, you think, oh, this for this person is cute, and blah, blah, blah. So marriage is a bit the same way. I've seen people that they do whatever they want their whole life. 3 weeks before the marriage, they move into an ashram, they candle every day, you know? It's called the last minute Christmas shopping. It's not a pleasant experience. It's really not, because you're rushing against time. And again, few people did that and it worked amazingly. Very few. For the majority, it didn't work. So one advice I can give you, especially those that are on the younger age, 18, 20, 21, 22, it's never too early to contact one of your brothers or sisters and be like, hey, how was your experience? You know, what advice do you have for me? What could I do? It really starts, you build up yourself to the marriage years before. And sometimes you see these people get married, they looked at each other and they go, ah, so much love, and everybody's in awe, you know. It's not like they were amazing the week before. They've been working at themselves for the past 10 years. They've been trying to be the best that they could, avoid certain things, do certain other things. So it's something that you don't need to be obsessed with, but it's good to have it in your attention. I would like to do that. What can I do to make myself ready for that? And so on and so forth. So this is a generic thing. Another very practical advice, what we're trying to do is to give workshops 6 months ahead in succession. And you have different types of workshops. There's one where we share all the nice stories and the miracles, and that's very nice. It opens your heart, it's beautiful. But that's also, we know there's a problem with that, is that we're doing all these stories, right? So you go to a marriage workshop and the guy's like, and then I saw her and I knew her from previous lives and her name was Jasmina, you know, and this and that. And then you get married and nothing of that happens. And you're like, how is this stranger, you know? Like, how do I deal with this? So we realized that people were going into marriage thinking that you were supposed to have a dream with Shimaji every night before you get married. That doesn't happen. That's a 1% thing. Population randomly happens. Most of it is a normal process. You meet somebody that you've never met before, and people are like, yeah, it's a bit strange because I met him and I'm not incredibly in love with him. Like, well, it would be weird otherwise, I would say. If you meet a stranger and you know everything, like, marriage is the beginning step of where you need to go. So now the way we're doing the workshop is we don't only address the amazing stories, but we address the difficult times. So here's a guy that was matched and really didn't like this person, but kind of stuck with it and managed to do, Here's another guy that said no the first time, and that happened to be the right thing, because the next time was matched, it was an amazing match. Here's a guy who had a dream with Shri Mataji. So you give a variety of views. So one advice I can give you, if you can, even if you're a bit younger, do attend these workshops when they take place, even though you're not getting married immediately. Because, every year you have different stories, every year you're different people. It's extremely, extremely helpful. And one last point, because we could be speaking for 6 days about marriages, is again this point that the matching is the beginning of your journey, is not the ending of it. Which means Shri Mataji gives you a match that potentially is the best match for you to evolve, to grow, and to spiritually grow. That doesn't mean you're perfect. You are two metals that are compatible, but the metals need to be worked. And your job is for the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years when you're together, to do their work together. There are some couples that meet and you like, man, they're like 50 years down the work already. You can tell. They just connect. They're incredible. Every year there's a couple of people like that. And it's great. But that's not the norm. The norm is you meet the person, you need to connect emotionally. Very likely they're from a different country, they have a different understanding of you. Sometimes they don't speak very well your language. So it's all practical things that you need to deal with. And again, now I cannot make you the list because it's too long, but in this workshop we try to give you actually very practical tips on how to deal with encountering, how to deal with difficulties in communication, and so on and so forth. One last thing which also I think is super important is how can you help your friends when you're not getting married. This is quite critical, and again, it's something that is not intuitive. I give you my experience and my wife when we got married, which is quite funny. We got married, we got matched in Rome. I got married in my own city, so all my bros were around, and it was great, and all our family was there. We had a great time. I didn't even meet her yet. I just was going there. We were rows because I was late. I came the day after, and literally in the street, I was met with a load of people. Like, congratulations, you guys are so amazing for each other, blah, 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 blah. And me being me, I loved it. I was like, yeah, it's me, yes, the flower, this is great, we're a great couple, My wife hated it. She's like, give me the time to meet the dude, I don't even know him, and you already tell me about my life. So sometimes even this joy, there's excessive intrusion. It's something that we need to be a bit more careful in Sahaj. Like, your joy is great, but also these are two people that don't know each other, and they need a bit of time, about 24 hours to decide if they're going to spend the rest of their life together. So they do need a bit of that space. And especially if there is a problem, so if you see your friend is a bit unsure, go back to what Anand said, do not force anybody to say yes or no. Do not force anything on anybody. You're going to regret it for the rest of your life. It's not your position to tell people, yeah, oh no, this is just your ego, just get married. You don't know what they're going through. You don't know what the other person is going through. I'll tell you something that Malik taught me, which is really amazing. He said this thing which you learned by you, by the way, you learned from you, which I really like. Whenever you want to help somebody, sit down, give abandon, and ask, Shri Mataji, am I the right person to speak to this person? And if you're meant to be, that person comes to you and he tells you, hey, I'm getting married, I really don't know what to do. Can you give me advice? There you can shoot all your bullets. You can say whatever you want to say, because God told you, I want you to speak to this person. You don't go to them, you don't invade their privacy, you're not aggressive with it. And that's key. And it's crazy because I tried that. And 7 times out of 10, the person didn't come to talk to me. But the 3 that came, I have the most amazing marriage stories. Because I was able to, one was an artist. And she's like, I don't want to get married, Sahaja, I have my freedom, my art. And then if I get married to somebody that wants me to be in the kitchen all day, And I was like, well, do you think your mother will put you in a situation that you hate so much? I was like, I feel your husband not only is going to accept your art, he's going to embellish it. He's going to make it more amazing. She got married to another artist. They sing together now. Like, it's just, but that's because she came to me and I was the right person to talk. So a very important advice is if somebody else, is getting married, don't make it your responsibility to choose for them or to tilt them into something. Ask Shri Mataji. And if she gives you the okay, if the miracle happens, go ahead with it, which connects with what you said at the beginning. Don't force yourself to nothing.
Just adding one last point that you said, no two lives are the same. No two lives are the same. The day my daughter was born, I lost a Sahaja Yoga friend from a fatal disease. And I saw the side of extreme happiness and absolute catastrophe in my own life because he was a very close friend of mine, 2 days apart. It can happen to anybody. Your life is not somebody else's life. Let people live their own lives and make their own decisions. People have very tough circumstances. I've seen growing up in Sahaj that there's this habit of people coming and preaching to other people like you know it and you know what's right and wrong. But your truth is not valid for everybody. And everybody's circumstances are different. I know a girl, a very, very sweet yogini, who was married once, her marriage failed. She was married twice, her marriage failed. Both times surrendered in Sahaj marriage, both times her marriage failed. And she went and found somebody else and got married at the end. That's another story. So let's not, make a prescription about right and wrong in this. Things happen, things go left, things go right, and who knows? I don't know. There are things we'll never know. So let's live in that enigma and carry on with life.
If there's no more questions from the audience, on behalf of everyone, once again, a big, hearty thanks for all the knowledge, for all the insights, and of course, all the humor you brought tonight.